Hello, and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast, which for this podcast means 6 thoughts about reading, writing, or just storytelling in some form or fashion. So I've got my 6 things ready, up early, and ready to get started. So number 1, I shared last week that I had finished the first draft of my book, Firmament Progenitor, the 10th book in my series, and I got that off to a couple of my longtime beta readers, and I've also been reading it aloud to my husband. He's really good at plot stuff and helping me, figure out where things need a little work in the big picture and things that don't make sense or whatever, stuff like that. But as I've been reading it to him, which I've only just started, we're only a couple chapters in, but I'm wishing I had given it like a little run through before just sending it off to my other readers, because it's just, there's just a lot of issues with it. All little things so far. I mean, I say little things, mostly little things like there's the wrong word here and there, or there's repeated words and just like little, small editing type stuff like that. So, I'm used to just sending it straight off, and thankfully my readers have my beta readers have lots of patience and have been with me a long time. I know they won't judge me for things like that, but that is the nature of first drafts. But it is definitely just a lot of those kinds of this little issues. And then also noticing some bigger issues, like already there's been 2 things that I've read where I realized I forgot to ever go back and explain stuff. Like I just totally left little plot lines hanging. So I'm keeping a list of things like that I need to go back and address at some point. So yeah, it's definitely going to need some work, but I still think the basic through line of the story is solid. We'll see what readers think about that. But yeah, definitely a lot of small to medium things that are going to need to be fixed in editing, which I'm going to start, once my readers get back with me. But I'm hoping to maybe start editing the end of this month, but I'm also not in a huge rush because I know it's going to be a while before I'm able to get my cover finished. So not a rush, but yeah, definitely a lot of things I already know that I need to fix. And I'm sure that some of my readers will come up with a few more. Number 2, I am thinking about starting to write the next book next month, but I honestly have barely even given it a thought yet. And I'm going to need to do a lot of outlining on this next one because, again, I just haven't even really thought about it. I know which story comes next, but for each installment in the series, I really only have the bare kernel of a thought until I actually get to it and start working through it and outlining it and stuff like that. So it's really only a premise, if even. So definitely a lot of work to do before I can even start writing on it. But also I've just been kind of resting this month, and other than been doing a lot of audiobooks, like I mentioned, I've been able to keep doing a lot of recording, finished one up, and then finished up a short, very, very short, 20-minute audiobook project. Currently working on finishing up another one. So staying kind of busy with audiobooks, but honestly, I'm also just kind of ready to rest for a little bit, which I'll talk a bit more about later. But my one writing time in this current season is the afternoons, which is our nap time / rest time, because I've done different things. I've done mornings, I've done nights, but mornings currently are full with, that's the time that I have my Bible reading, and of course on certain mornings do my podcast, do a short workout, and there's just not more time to squeeze writing into it. And then in the nights I'm just too tired. So it's afternoons, and lately I've just been needing some rest in the afternoon. So just kind of going with the flow. But again, I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Number 3, last week I also went over our tax stuff and got it all sent off to my accountant. And one thing I did that made it so much easier, so because I am self-employed, mine is all like more complicated than a normal employee type situation. And so my accountant always needs any business expenses from my writing, audiobooks, etc. And every year I've been saying, oh, I need to keep a list of my expenses throughout the year. And every year I had not done it. I just would go through, when it was time to do taxes, go through our bank statements for the entire year and pull the things out of that had been writing expenses. But last year I finally just opened a document at the beginning of the year and just made a month-by-month list of all the expenses. And so then when it was time to send the stuff off, it was so much easier and much less intimidating. So I did it again, or I am doing it again this year as well. So a small thing, and it was been small at the time, like just to throw in, whatever small advertising, or if I need to get something printed or need batteries for my recorder or whatever, stuff like that, just throw it on the list and then I have it all ready to go. So finally trying to get at least a tiny bit professional, and it paid off last week with so much less work that I had to do. So number 4, I just finished reading my girls' Little House in the Big Woods yesterday, and so we're going to go through that series. I've already got Little House on the Prairie on hold at the library, and they enjoyed it, and it's been interesting. I know I've shared before that I often feel like I don't want to read them certain things because I feel like they're not old enough or they're not ready to fully enjoy it. And I'm trying to let go of that mindset because it's just, this is not the only chance they'll have to read those things. The first time you read something is not the only time. And I don't think, I think I had this sense in my head that it'll diminish their overall enjoyment if, they're not. And I mean, I still want to read things that are appropriate to their age. Obviously, I'm not looking to read them something like anything that's like super advanced, but things like the Chronicles of Narnia, for example, I'm like, I don't even remember the first time I read those. I just grew up knowing the stories because my parents would read them to us. We had them on tape, and those are some of my favorite stories in the whole world. Like, I love that it's just always sort of been a part of like my family culture and of me. And so I'm like, you know what? Like, this is fine. It doesn't have to be, everything doesn't have to be perfect, It doesn't have to be the perfect time and like the perfect experience. So we went ahead and started reading Little House. And then I think after that, we will finally try reading Narnia. And obviously all that should keep us busy for quite a while. But there's just so many books I'm so excited to read to them and share with them and experience with them. And then yesterday, after we finished Little House in the Big Woods at lunch, I gave it to my oldest and said, here, you can look at the picture the rest time if you want. And so she took it, and then later she came out and she's like, I read part of it again, Mommy. So I don't know how much she read, but it's just sweet how much we enjoy reading together, and we are definitely going to be kept busy for many years with all the things and all the stories. And I just love how much they love the reading and they love the stories. And even if they don't, understand everything or they have questions, we have fun discussing it afterwards. And I try to explain stuff to them, and it's just like a whole experience that we have together, and it's so much fun. Number 5, am I currently reading? I just finished the book Hard is Not the Same Thing as Bad, and that was very good, very encouraging, solid, just lots of great reminders, just as a mom going throughout daily life, that a perspective shift on how we view things that can be a challenge or a struggle can make such a huge difference just in day-to-day life. And so that was really good, really glad I read it. Today, Lord willing, I'm about to start the book, The Little Liar by Mitch Albom, which is our next book club book, and book club is in just a week. So it's a good thing I'm a fast reader. So I'm curious how that will be, and I'm sure I'll keep y'all updated. And then also, I decided to start rereading via audiobook the Anne of Green Gables series this year. And so I finally got started on that first audiobook. And the books, again, those are another series I would love to read to my girls, in the near-ish future. And it's just so good. Like, it's a favorite and a classic for so many reasons, like such beautiful characters and writing and story. And so I'm glad I decided to revisit it, and just also kind of reading it or listening to it with my girls in mind has been fun, and thinking about what they might think of it and what their questions might be, and just and stuff like that. So I'm glad I dove into that, and that also the audiobooks will keep me busy for a while because there's several books in the series. But yeah, so lots of reading going on as always. Well, number 6, I know I mentioned a little bit about how, other than audiobooks, I've kind of been taking a little break. And it's interesting because a lot of times, especially the past few years, now that I have built up a little bit more of a business and done a little more work on actually making money from my writing, getting it out there, more consistently, things like that. When I do choose to kind of take a bit of a break, there can be a sort of feeling of guilt of like, oh, I could be doing more. Am I not stewarding well, all the effort I've already put into this? Because, you do have to keep up momentum with a business and a product. Like, you can't just do nothing. Or rather, if you do nothing, it's not going to grow by itself, and it's not going to maintain itself. So but then it's helpful for me to remember, first of all, like, this is just my own goals. Like, there isn't really a right or wrong. I'm just such a perfectionist. Sometimes it's helpful for me to remind myself this is not a moral issue. Like, whether I get out a certain number of books a year or market them a certain amount or keep getting stuff out on Kindle Vella, like, those things are not moral right and wrong issues, which again might sound dumb to some people, but that's just the way my brain works. I have to be reminded that not everything is black and white. But also, it's been helpful to remind myself that this really kind of is the number one reason that I prefer self-publishing to traditional publishing, is because I can do things in the way that I want and the way that works for me and for my family. So I am able to, like, if I'm a little bit burned out, or if I am wanting to focus on audiobooks because it's a good time for me to do that, I am able to adjust. And sometimes, I need more rest than other times. And then also, having a different focus at different times, and just, I don't know, just all of that is okay. And that self-publishing can give you that kind of freedom where I don't have deadlines imposed by a publisher. I don't have, really people other than myself counting on what I'm doing in my writing and in my business endeavors. So I do have that freedom, and it's okay to use it to adjust or to take some time to rest, and to just have a few weeks where my rest time, instead of writing frantically, looks like doing some audiobook editing and then just doing some reading and enjoying some quiet crochet time or taking a nap or just whatever I need right now. And so it's just, I don't know if who else out there can relate to this feeling that there's some sense of guilt if you're not doing as much as you could. But I'm sure I'm not the only one. And so that's why I thought it might be just beneficial to go over a few of those thoughts that help to remind myself that when I need to know and be told again that it's okay. It's okay. It's not black and white. It's not like do or die. There is freedom to be flexible, to go with the flow, to listen to my body, to listen to what's going on in my family, and to say this is going to be a little bit of a slower month or a slower time, and then to have the freedom to pick it back up again when there is more energy, or I am wanting to accomplish something more, or just it's okay to let things ebb and flow. And I have the freedom to do that personally because of self-publishing. And again, that's why I've always been drawn to it, is I don't want a publisher pulling the strings and telling me how, and just calling the shots, telling me how my book has to be and when it has to be out, and what my schedule needs to look like. Like, I get to decide that for myself, and that is valuable, and that can just free me from a need to do things a certain way, or to feel like if I'm not doing it this way, I'm not doing it right. So I am trying to remind myself of those things, and it has been nice to sort of just take a little breathing room for a few weeks and reassess, and then, I'll pick up editing at some point and move forward. Thank you all so much for listening. As always, I would love to hear any of your thoughts on books to read to young kids, and how you decide when someone is ready to read a favorite book. And then if you struggle with feeling like you're not doing enough or need to do enough, and some ways that you combat those thoughts, and just how, if you are self-employed, how you can determine your own schedule and be motivated without feeling like it has to be driven in a certain way. I would love to discuss all those things. And as always, I thank everyone so much for listening. Hope that everyone has a great day and a great weekend ahead, and stay improbable. Bye.